What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sideline Thoughts. I'm Joe Galvez, and like today's title shows, talking about the NBA Finals, the midway point of it, as we already went through game 1 through 4, and we're just gonna be talking about it pretty quickly. Don't have to go too much because 1 through 4 already passed. We already know things that happen in 1 and 2 and 3 by the time 4. So we're just gonna you know I want to do a quick recap on this and then get one more episode of the NBA Finals after the finals happen. Um, but yeah, let's just get start right into it. So starting out at the NBA Finals, we see today we have Game 5 of the NBA Finals at 5:30 Pacific time. It's gonna be a big one. Again, Mavericks are still on the do or die mentality, just like they were in Game 4. They had to bring in everything that they did great in Game 4. They had to continue that in Game 5. They did have a 2-day rest in between, so we see how that helps them or hurts them. Holding that momentum, having the hot hand. Obviously, the hot hand doesn't carry that far, but the momentum and things going on. Now, does this mean the Celtics are going to finally wake up after a fluke of being able to sweep the Mavericks over there in Dallas? Are they going to be able to get it done here? Now, obviously, a lot of people think, oh, they lost one game away on purpose so they could win at home. A lot of people think that. My dad, he truly believes that. He says that a lot, that the teams that are leading tend to lose a game or two, depending on what the situation is, in order so they could win at home and celebrate with the fans and everything like that, which makes sense, makes a lot of sense. And he also believes because TV sponsorships and stuff like that make more money. Whatever the situation is, can the Celtics get it done here and do it for the fans? Can they win it in front of the fans? Because if not, that means they're gonna have to try to win it in 6 over in Dallas, or if they really want to and unable to do in Game 5, are they really gonna allow it to go to Game 7, which is gonna be a completely different narrative, completely different thinking of like, hey man, you guys had a 3-0 lead, you had one win to get done, and now we're in Game 7. This means that the Celtics could lose it, that the Mavs could reverse sweep, genuine sweep them, however you call it. That could possibly happen. So today really determines a lot. This game really puts it on do or die still on the Mavericks, not yet on the Celtics. But I think if the Mavericks were the Mavericks are to win today, then the Celtics might get some type of that feeling, that do or die feeling by Game 6, because no one wants to be able to go to Game 7 after having a 3-0 lead. But now looking at the other games, so moving on from it, let's look at Game 1, which was the Mavericks' worst game. But by just from the start of it, it was a very bad game. They only got 89 points, couldn't even reach 100. Celtics just getting 101, 107, but they already had the win pretty much by, and I'm gonna say by halftime, by the third for sure, it was already done. I mean, just looking at the players and just looking off the bat of the stats of having, you have PJ Washington going 14 points, you have Derrick Jones only gave me 5 points, which is sadly that's kind of his average range, just the 5 to 10 points. Gafford only 8, which you needed at least 12 from him consistently. Luka doing his thing with 30. Kyrie getting a measly 12 points, 23 rebounds, and 2 assists. That was a very bad game for him, especially being the locker room and the veteran in the locker room. Sorry, the veteran in the locker room, and knowing what it's like to be here to get 12 points and not being able to either play make or turn defense to offense with rebounds and assists. It really did not help out the Mavericks a lot. Josh Green won the 3 points. Maxi Kleber with 2. Derek Lively only with 2 as well. That's a big part of what went down. 18 minutes and you only get 5 rebounds and 2 points. Doesn't help. Jaden Hardy came out to play at least that game off the bench with 13 points off 11 minutes. So it works out for them. But aside from that, we know the defense. We saw the defense of the Celtics. As we're moving on to the Celtics here, you're looking at the offense. Tatum, bad game, 60 points. 42 minutes, you only get 60 points. So you get 11 rebounds, you get 5 assists, but 6 points does not help out. Tatum being not Tatum, Jaylen Brown being your best player on the team, and Jason Kidd said it when he gave the compliment at Jaylen Brown, pretty much the best player, which Tatum gets the praise a lot of. Tatum gets that label of being the best player on the Celtics when much of this playoff series or much of the playoffs for the Celtics against the Pacers, we've seen that it's been Jaylen Brown has been the best player. And in this series too, in the finals, we see it's been Jaylen Brown. Off the bat in game one, he had the most points for the Celtics, not in the game. Luka had the most points in the game. 22 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Al Horford put in a nice 10 points, 7 rebounds. Drew Holiday gave his 12 points, and Derek White gained 15 points, with Kristoff getting 20 points. Now, that was the big reveal coming in to be able to play game one after being injured, coming in and getting 11 points in the first quarter. And that was the big stop. That's what gave the Celtics the big lead just to start off. It looked like the Mavericks were not ready or prepared to be able to face off against Kristoff. I think they were more prepared against Al Horford, which the matchup looks much better against, like I mentioned in the previous NBA final video that I did here. But Porzingis, they're just not ready. And like I said, he was going beyond the arc shooting. He was driving it in. 11 points in the first quarter. Just to end up with 20 at the end of the night, I guess because of his injury, you're limiting much of his minutes. He still got 21 minutes, so you got about half the game. Still limiting it. I think he could have gotten a bit more, but he still did what he needed to do, and that was just enough for it. So, but we're looking at that, and the points. One, obviously, the points lead up to the win, but the big part of what we were talking about, Derek White and Drew Holiday. Phenomenal defense game one, locked up Kyrie Irving, locked up with Luka. Again, you can't. It's so hard to lock them up. That's the point. It's so hard to play great defense. Even though you could probably keep them on a little shooting drought for about 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes, he won't be able to get a bucket. He's still gonna get his points some one way or another. If it's not these 2-3 minutes here, it's gonna be the next 3-4 minutes. He's hitting three shots in a row, 4 shots in a row. So Luka, you're still allowed to get 30. I said in the last video, if we held him to 20, 25, that was a great, defensive play. They still get 30. And yes, the Celtics still got the win, and everything else looks great defensively against every other player, even with Kyrie. But with Luka, it's just you realize that how are you going to stop them, and it's just tough. But game was definitely all around play team ball. It definitely looked more like a Drew Holiday and Derek White type of game, along with Jaylen Brown the scoring, but like overall game, look at between them two, while with everyone playing the roles in Kristaps Porzingis won the first quarter. But we move on to game two. You see a better game from the Mavericks and scoring wise. Still allowed them to 100 points, just took away 2 points to the previous game. Still very tough on them. Still very tough. Washington did score more with 17 points, 7 rebounds. Derrick Jones got you 6 more points than the last game. This is what you need from him consistently, the 11 points. Daniel Gafford as well, hitting the 13 points. Like I said, they're going to need that consistency from him. Only 9 rebounds. I would have asked for more, and being Jason Kidd. Luka having a triple-double, a phenomenal game. 32 points, 11 assists, 11 rebounds, as you guys see here. Kyrie bringing back up from the 12 points, so he got 16, but still not enough. In a series like this, you need Kyrie to hit the 20, 25s. You just need it. Again, Derek Lively with 19 minutes, only getting 7 rebounds and 2 points. Maxi Kleber with also 16 points, getting 0 points. 16 minutes, getting 0 points with 2 rebounds. And Josh Green not doing as much, or Hardy not doing as much, but he only had 2 minutes. This is just from the stats of it. But as you're watching the game itself, they started off very well. The Mavericks, they had a small lead in the first quarter. They were keeping up with the Celtics. It looked the Celtics were going a little slow, but they're playing aggressive to that slow pace. In the second quarter as well, the teams were very up and at it with each other. They're going back and forth at it. But looking at it, the Mavericks were still down 51 to the 54 at half, but they were still in it. They were fighting. They were competing. It was still a close game, and it looked very good. But that third quarter just killed the Mavericks. They got outscored by 5 points, but that was kind of what gave the lead. By the time the Mavericks tried to pull back, were just unable to. By the fourth, it was tough. Game two, I really thought was the game for the Mavericks to come back and win and establish themselves. I was look throughout their playoff run this season. They won game 2 and 3 against the whole entire Western Conference. This was their first game 2 loss in the entire playoff run. I really thought they needed a win here to establish itself. Hey, we're still in this. It's still a final series. We're gonna fight off. But they couldn't, and they didn't. Even though, no matter how much better the starting five played, you need everyone for the Mavericks because, like we said, the matchup they're gonna lose the matchups. So you need everything that they could do to counter them in bigger moments. You know, looking at the Celtics, well, you have Porzingis giving you 12 points. That's not 20, but again, he's coming off the injury, playing. He only played 2 more minutes. Derek White, 18 points, phenomenal game. Drew Holiday, this was his game. We thought game one was when it like one for Holiday and White. Game two, he just shooting lights out. 26 points, 11 rebounds, got a double double with the 3 assists. Ironically, being a point guard, you should get more assists, but he made it up with the rebounds and the points. Al Horford having a fairly bad shoot, scoring now only 5 points with 7 rebounds. Jaylen Brown with the 21 points. Again, he wasn't the leading scorer this time for the Celtics, but he was the second one, and everyone sees him as the second best player. He's doing his job. While Tatum, he only had 18 points with 12 assists and 9 rebounds. He had a double double. I still had Jaylen just scoring one more three on it. Again, this is a game where the defense came in, and even though the Celtics didn't play as great a defense as they did in game one, they still played good enough, and they still continued to score on them. How was it? Now, game three, again, where I also thought Mavericks were going to put themselves in and be like, hey, all right, we got to get a win here. Keep it going. And so far, the script has been flipped on the Mavericks. They lose game three, which, again, they haven't lost game three against the entire Western Conference at all. They had won game 2 and 3 against all of them and lost game 4. Now, this time, they lose game 3. So game 2 and game 3 back to back. Very tough. It looks like almost the Mavericks had a morale out of it just mentally after losing game 3. It's like, oh, it might be over. That's how it looked at the end of the game. We see Tatum here with the 31 points. He finally led the team in points with just one, what he's supposed to do throughout the entire and final series, the entire playoffs that they had. Jaylen Brown gained 30 points. Great game for him. Al Horford again having fairly tough shooting time, only 8 points. Drew Holiday going below his average actually with 9 points. Wasn't his best one, but they still got the work done defensively. And Derek White was able to help out with the 16 points and helping out defensively, marking. Sam Hauser's game minutes. Now, game 3 was interesting because Porzingis didn't play because they said he got re-injured, right? So now that was part of why I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe the Mavericks are going to be able to take advantage of it when the matchups. Now you have Al Horford, your players can match up against him much better. Could get this win. Didn't happen. Didn't work out. Even though Al Horford didn't have a great shooting time, the matchup still didn't work. The shots weren't falling for the Mavericks for them. PJ Washington still gets 13, and you're really going to need him to score more. Not obviously more, but you need him around the 16-point range in order to get these wins. We've seen him hit 20-something points against OKC, and we saw that against Timberwolves, he's fall down to around the 10s area. If you keep him around the 16 to 19, you have a good chance of winning games. Derrick Jones fall behind, very inconsistent, as I've mentioned before. He's been very inconsistent with his points. And even when he is getting 2 games of this, consistency, it's still not high enough. And just going Daniel Gafford back to the 6 points wasn't good at all. Kyrie Irving finally showing up big time with the 35 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. And sadly wasn't enough. When your players, your 2 stars are able to alone get over 50 points and you still lose, it really is the role players not being able to do the job to the best of their abilities, which for the Mavericks, you see in a lot of the matchups, the role players had to step up a lot in order to get these wins, and they had throughout in the Western Conference side. But in this finals, they're not stepping up, and it may be because they were the first time in the finals, first time for all of this, but they had to pick it up by game 3. Luka gained 27 points with 6 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, what more can you ask for Luka? Still in the range where that was great, even for the Celtics perspective of it, where you get from Tatum and Brown. And Lively picking it back up with 11 points and 13 rebounds, getting a nice double double, but a little bit too late. I mean, so now that was the interesting thing. I thought game three, especially with Porzingis being out, that would have been the chance. But now we go on to game four, where they finally saved themselves because, like Jason Kidd said, that the Celtics were on celebration mode while the Mavericks were, we're gonna get this win mode. We're gonna fly to Boston. We're gonna, you guys better pack your bags and be ready to move back, because that's really what it was, and it clearly showed it. You just look at the score here. Jaylen Brown only 10 points, his worst game by far, his worst game throughout the playoffs. Jason Tatum with 15 points. He had a 16-point game in game one, and an 18-point. That it looking like his average, honestly. Al Horford 3 points again. A terrible shooting for this playoff series for Al Horford. Derek White defensively wasn't the best. He only got 6 points offensively. Drew Holiday tried to help out offensively. I think he had a much better defensive game compared to Derek White on this one. Pritchard tried to help him out with 11 points. By the third quarter, the Celtics had already taken out their starters. They knew the game was a loss. They waved the white flag, and they were getting ready for Game Five. Watching it, the Mavericks, on the other hand, Mavericks on the other hand, they were going all on it. They were going for the kill. Derek Jones again in the 5 point range. PJ Washington having a terrible shooting night. Terrible shooting night. Daniel Gafford again, terrible shooting night. But the bench, people off the bench came out to help, and the role players did their parts. The starting five had been very inconsistent aside from Luka. Kyrie comes up with 21 points with the 4 rebounds and 6 assists, while Luka gets the 29 points to 5 rebounds, 5 assists. That you need them to hit the 50 points to get a minimum 50 points to get, which they hit in this one. But without your other three starters playing good, in order to get this win, because this could have been lost. I know the score is big, and if you look at throughout the quarters, you see the 34 points in the first quarter, 27 seconds. The Celtics had a very terrible shooting night, very terrible shooting night, and you see them pick it up in the second half. But the Mavericks kept the foot on the gas and scored like 31 and 30 points in the second quarter. That like all true. And you've seen that even with the 25, 24 points, the Celtics had the bench in. But you're looking, it's the starters that weren't playing, and imagine if the bench for the Mavericks didn't come out to play. If Dante Exum didn't get 10 points, if Tim Hardaway Jr. didn't go out for 15, if Derek Lively actually, I believe Derek Lively might have started. If I'm not wrong, Derek Lively started this game. So he was actually on the stars. 11 points, 12 rebounds, played great with 22 minutes. Gafford came off the bench with the 7 points. But you're looking, the point is off the bench, you got 15 points here, you got 10 points here, you got the 7 from Gafford, you got the 5 from Kleber, but you got the 11 to up on the starters with these two. You need everyone to play great. And as a team collectively, yeah, you scored a lot of points, but individually, it didn't look so good for certain role players. And you need them. You need Washington and Gafford specifically, along with Derek Lively and Hardy, to go off at least 15 points, if like max 15 points if possible, for Game 5 for tonight, in order to push for Game 6. Because Celtics, they could be like, hey, we messed up, we need to get back in our game, and they could do shooting lights out. Because this Game 4 wouldn't have been a Mavericks win if Celtics weren't shooting as bad. They're shooting much better. If the starters for the Celtics were playing any little better, this could have been a loss for the Mavericks because the starters for the Mavericks weren't playing all that great. That's just what I'm looking at. But great win for the Mavericks in order to push it. You get that mentality, that momentum, saying, hey, now it's go time. We're in do or die. Switch it on and get it going. Now, something that I want to bring up, move this back. Now, something I want to bring up, and I know a lot of people have been keeping up with the NBA already know this. It became very apparent and came to light at the end of Game 2 when they noticed, a lot of the fans, a lot of sports fans, so noticed that Tatum's shooting has been terrible. For being the best player in the team, his shooting has been terrible. Now you're looking at it, you're like, well, he had 16 points, 18 points. That alone, to me, for being the star of a team and being the one that's supposed to carry them to the championship, That's bad alone. That alone, that's like the third star of the team type of points, maybe second depending on who the star is, but that's very low. But they're talking about the field goals made for them from how many were taken. In game one, Tatum had 16 points on 6 made field goals of 16 attempted field goals. By game two, he had 18 points on 6 made field goals on 22 attempted shots. Now, at the times where it kind of came up where, hey, he was only 12 for 38 on shooting. That's very bad. And it's true. That's why Jason Kidd also, and what Jason Kidd said in pointing out that Jaylen Brown is their best player, it's true because on those same games, game one, Brown had 22 points on 7 of 12 shooting. Just one more shot made, but less shots taken and more points. And then he had 21 points on 8 of 15. So two more shots comparing game to Tatum's game two. And he had 7 less shots taken. Now moving on, game three and game four passed. You're looking at Tatum went game three, 31 points on 11 of 26. Much better, looking like the number one star there. And in game four, he went 15 points on 4 of 10 shooting. That back to being trash. Truthfully, that's what it is. Back to being trash. If you're a star and you're getting 15 points, you're trash. Now, I understand you're a role player. You're the third, fourth shooting option, leading option for the team. Okay, that's fine. You did your part. Now, looking at Brown, game three, he had 30 points off of 12 on 12 made shots of 22 attempted. Only missed 10 shots. That's not too bad on 30 points. But then game four, much like Tatum, Brown had a very bad one. His first bad game of the series. In fact, that Tatum, in my opinion, has only had one good game in the series. Brown's only bad game in the series was 10 points on 3 of 12 shooting. Now, that means in game 3 and 4, Brown has made 15 shots out of 34, while Tatum has made 16 shots out of 36. Now you total them up. You got Tatum has 80 points total in the final series, 80 points on 26 made shots of 74 total taken shots. While Brown has 83 points on 30 made shots of 61 taken. Now, mind you, both of them in the total entirety of the series have 17 points off free throws. 17 of Tatum's 80 points are from free throws, and 17 of Brown's 82 points off of free throws. Just a very bad shooting night. That's kind of just to point it out. Celtics are winning these games because of the role players and how they've been playing a lot of the defense from White and Holiday, being able to lock down Kyrie, try to settle down Luka, try to play defense on these other players like PJ Washington. And that's really what it is, because if you look at the defense, I mentioned before that they might double team Luka. And if you're watching it, you see Tatum and Brown shifting to help out on Luka, but they don't shift as much. They don't corner him because they're also for some reason, or not only for some reason, but they're also keeping an eye on who Luka is going to pass it to, because knowing his passing ability, they don't want to leave one open. Like I thought they would have, as I mentioned in the beginning. I thought they would at least someone open, but this time they said no, that they'll go on the help. But as soon as he makes that pass out, someone's going to be there. And usually if Tatum's going out for the help, if his man gets the ball, he's back right on, and he has to be keeping up with the defense. So we saw that in game 1 and 2 and majority part of game 3, where then they not trying to let Luka pass, but even if his pass goes on, they're not allowing that person to score. Whether it's whether it's Derrick Jones Jr. or PJ Washington or Lively, whoever it is, they're trying to rotate in order to keep them, one, from Luka making the pass, or two, from that pass even getting scored more assists on Luka. So that's why we see Luka's assist column pretty low, but at the same time, it's the defense of the Celtics that's working as a team. It's not just Holiday and White, like I kind of mentioned it to be. And then I added, throughout that video, I added that Brown and Tatum would be helping out. But you see them, giving the respect of each other players and, marking them as they're supposed to. So let's see how it works out now. Um, One thing before get to the end of this thing to point out is that I did say that it was going to be interesting to see how Holiday and White go scoring on Kyrie and Luca. And though, in my opinion, we see the scoring of Holiday did get 1 and 2, and Derek White as well. Looking out, and you see what Jason Kidd does is move Luca off of them on the defensive end, move him to Al Horford, where we see Al Horford's not having the best shooting night. You have Luca as your worst defender on the starting five. Put him on Al Horford, let them do what they got to do, and let the other defenders work on Holiday and White, knowing that they could go off if they have a bad defender on them. So that's going on. And even then, we see clips of Luca actually, you know, trying hard on defense if he gets switched on White or Holiday. He's actually, at least in game four, saw him put in that effort, try to keep up with them, try to keep moving his feet with them. So it looks good. It looks like you said the mentality's changed. The Mavericks now are like, okay, we could do this. Luca's like, all right, I could play this defense. I'm not going to be guarding him all the time, but if I do switch up on him, I can make it hard for him to get a shot off, to get a pass off, or whatever the situation is. So that's going to be all very interesting to see by game 5, which is tonight that we're going to see. Yeah, guys, that's kind of just halfway preview, kind of, some little notes that I've written for I've noticed in the first 4 games, but there's obviously a lot more to go into it, a lot of other things that goes into this. But for right now, I just want to keep it short for the first 4, and then the finals might have. The finals will be, much more depending on when it ends. So yeah, said I'm hoping. I think Luca deserves a championship, but there's a good chance Celtics. Yeah, guys. But yeah, guys, I had to disagree. Thanks again for watching. I'm Joe Galvez. This is Silent Thoughts. See you guys next time.